Questions for reflection. As we move toward the week that is called Holy Week, our first reading, taken from the Old Testament book of the prophet Jeremiah, presents us with an account of this great Hebrew prophet being persecuted. Yet, as is so often the case in the Hebrew Scriptures, when the verses are considered through the lens of the New Testament, through the Paschal mystery, the saving life and suffering, passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, we also see a type, a symbol of the persecution which Jesus will undergo when his time has fully come. Deception, suffering, sadness have all brought the prophet to a place of deep anguish, even eliciting words of utter despair spoken to the Lord. In the verses which precede our passage appointed for today's Mass, Jeremiah says to the Lord, "You duped me, and I let myself be duped." Yet this great Hebrew prophet remains faithful to the Lord, to his mission, and confident in God's deliverance. How do we handle disappointment in our own lives? As we seek to live our Catholic Christian faith in an increasingly hostile culture, we will face a form of persecution. Are we ready for it? Do we stay confident in the Lord? David the psalmist exhibits the same confidence in God. And I quote, "With death's breakers closing in on me, Belial's torrents ready to swallow me, Sheol's snares every side of me, death's traps lying ahead of me." Wow. How does he do it? Through persevering prayer. Listen to his words. "I called to Yahweh in my anguish. I cried for help to my God. From his temple, he heard my voice. My cry came to his ears." How do we deal with serious struggles in our own lives? Do we fall prey to the lies of the devil and blame God? Or do we cry out to him? When we choose the way of what can be called persevering prayer, we find the way out. When I was a young man, I had a wonderful Franciscan priest who taught me much about persevering prayer. Newly married, I thought I had the worries of the world flooding upon me. When I did not see quick answers to my prayer, I grew confused as to whether I should even continue asking. He told me with such practical wisdom, "Pray until what you seek is given, or the Lord changes your mind about what you are asking." Still good advice after all these years. In our gospel, we find Jesus facing the growing hostility of the crowds whose hearts were hardened against the truth that he came to proclaim. They seek to stone him again. Literally, these purportedly religious people want to throw rocks at God incarnate. They've become blinded by their own self-idolatry. This account of hostility follows the discourse on the Good Shepherd on the Feast of the Dedication at Jerusalem. He had just given them the response to the question they had asked him. "If you are the Christ, tell us plainly." He said, "I and the Father are one." This hostility was mild compared to what he would face as his hour drew near. He eluded them because that hour had not yet come. He had come to voluntarily give his life for all men and women, not to have it taken by them. Jesus persevered in prayer. In his sacred humanity in that garden called Gethsemane, we witness the greatest example of perseverance. We also witness the perfect fruit of surrendered love, which embraces the Father's will out of loving trust. In the letter to the Hebrews, we read that he offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears. That's in Hebrews 5, verse 7. Sometimes we do not ask for the things which we really need. But God, the loving Father which he is, loves to hear from his sons and daughters. He welcomes all our requests. However, he gives us what we truly need to flourish and find our way home. The best prayer transforms our desire into his desire. We move from our will to His will. As we learn to turn our human freedom toward His loving will, we find it fulfilled and perfected. We are called to persevering prayer, no matter what our state in life or vocation. Preparing ourselves for such prayer means learning to silence the clamor of the age, stop the ever-accelerating pace of the futile quests that so often occupy our hearts, and live in the eternal now by surrendering ourselves and even our best aspirations to the one who created us and now recreates us in His Son, Jesus Christ. It is there in the emptied place, in the stillness of the eternal now, where we prepare a room for the King of all hearts. And in that encounter, we will find the longing of our heart fulfilled. Do we persevere in prayer?